All right, let's start. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Please continue putting your name and your information on the chat. Let's say good morning. Good morning. It's once again, my name is Assemblywoman Mika Salaj. I'm chair of the Black, Puerto Rican, Hispanic, and Asian Legislative Caucus. I'm proud to stand with my fellow caucus members to call for just pay for human services workforce. Right? Can I get an amen? Right? Our state depends on essential and low wage workers, many of whom are people of color. Human services workers are predominantly women, 66%, and people of color, 68%. And so right now we're sitting on equal pay day, and we're just saying, let's just pay our human services workers. We are grateful for the inclusion of $500 million COLA in the executive budget. And we as a Senate Assembly have also invested into that, but we need to ensure that these monies go all the way for all the workers. And it's critical that New York State guarantees these employees wages and benefits that are proportional to the vital services that they provide. They are essential in every single letter of the word. Throughout the past 2 years, we recognize that healthcare and human services workers are heroes. And now we must keep that same energy, and we must navigate this final phase of the budget process to ensure that we get this to the final goal line. And so the caucus is not alone in this effort. We have organizations like 1199 supporting us, AARP New York, to the FDNY Foundation, who support the Just Pay campaign. So I also want to give special appreciation to all the legislators and members of the caucus who have continually uplifted this, because this is a racial, this is a gender, and this is an economic justice issue. And so let us continue pushing this. And so I need all your help, everyone on this virtual press conference, to help me get this to the finish line. And the caucus 100% supports this. So with that, I want to introduce Mr. Brown of SCO Long Island.
Hey, how you doing? Dalu Brown, SCO Family Services. All right. Good morning, my Just Pay supporters and underpaid colleagues. My name is Dalu Brown. I work with SCO Family Services as a coordinator of residential services. I work with children with developmental disabilities and autism. I started out in the field as residential counselor, made my way to a crisis intervention. Then I went to a behavior specialist, and now I'm a coordinator of residential services. I work with SCO since 2012, and we all know it ain't because of the big bucks. As a counselor, I met this individual. We just want to call him Jay. Jay couldn't speak. He loved to eat. He loved to do whatever he wanted to do, whenever he wanted to do it. He was one of the kids you would pretty much consider the tough kid in the program. Didn't really go out a lot. Didn't really have a lot of people that wanted to take him to the community because of his behaviors and things like that. But with me, we're going on a train. We're going to go see how the city is. We're going to go enjoy things and, just live life. Me and Jay built a trust, I would say. I took the time to get to know him. He couldn't speak or anything like that. He actually changed me as a person, because I've never actually interacted with a person that can speak or do for themselves as a teenager and things like that. So working in this field kind of like changed my whole aspect on caring for others and caring for individuals and things like that. And I'm saying with you here today because I do love my job. I do love the work that I do and caring for everyone else. But at the same time, I do have to be able to care for myself. And it's hard with the wage, the compression and everything. I'm here representing Long Island, SCO Family Services. We're all over in the Bronx and all things like that. I am here to just say, just pay, please, because we all need it, especially now. COVID just happened. For me, it changed my travel. I used to take a train. It actually turned out that I started to pay more on the train than trying to drive, and now with gas, kind of got crazy. And I feel like we all could appreciate, the wage going up to minimum 21. And for everyone, I feel like, residential counselors, behavior specialists, all the different levels would be so appreciated of it. And I feel like, we're calling on our legislators, the governor, hoping that, this bill gets passed, that they all sign and everything works in our favor, because as human service workers, we're essential, and we've been fighting through the COVID, through everything. We work through holidays, we work through anything they put in front of us. And I feel like just a little bit of help will go a long way. So at the end of the day, I'm just saying, please just pay. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your effort and what you do, the passion that you bring. And so you deserve to be compensated fully, you and all the human services workers. So we're going to move on to Mrs. Simmons from the Isaac Center in Harlem.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Crystal Simmons. I'm the Senior Director of Food and Nutrition Services at the Stanley Isaacs Neighborhood Center. The Isaac Center is a multi-service organization providing critical social safety nets to older adults, children, young adults, and families for nearly 60 years. I have been an HDM director for 13 years in New York City, working to diminish food insecurities for seniors by providing the resources necessary for them to live longer, healthier, and more independently. Since the onset of the pandemic, without a clear blueprint of how to proceed, the human services sector has been working tirelessly to ensure both service, continuity, and expansion to accommodate rapidly growing needs across the city. We knew we had to find a way to not have meal delivery disrupted. No senior is going to go hungry on our watch. It is unacceptable and disappointing our essential workers are being required to work multiple jobs to cover their living expenses. I am dedicated and committed to the fight to ensure that our essential workers, like the home delivered meals drivers, deliverers, cooks, and case managers, have a livable wage and a choice beyond survivability. Please, let's all come together for this great work that we're doing in New York City. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you. So we're going to move on to the legislators who are on the call who support this initiative. This is just a small sample size of the great support amongst the caucus. And so first I want to bring up Senator Liu, then Assemblywoman Jean-Pierre, and then Chantel Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank all the advocates here, Ms. Simmons, also Mr. Brown, who have given us their take on this very important issue. And I know we're joined by many of the people who, honestly, we and our constituents rely upon on a daily basis to provide basic services to people to keep them well, keep them safe, and free from hunger and other vulnerabilities. And yet we have been placing these workers in vulnerable positions for far too long, with wages that cannot allow themselves to sustain themselves and their families. So I'm very much in favor of this package of bills. This is necessary so that, my mom always said, don't think you can take care of anybody else if you can't take care of yourself. Well, how do we expect these workers to take care of everybody if we don't give them the ability to take care of themselves? It's as simple as that. So, Madam Chair, I'll leave it at that, but I'm in full support. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and to Simmons and Brown and to everyone who's listening and who have shared their story and allowed us here in Albany to participate on this much-needed resource to help families who, like my senator said, to help the most vulnerable population. And how can you continue to help others if you can't basically provide the most essential needs for yourself and your family? How can you continue? And you do continue. And and it's unfair. And it's so I stand with my members in the caucus to make sure that we can provide everyone a fair and equal quality of life. There's no reason why you can get up in the morning and are not sure if how you're going to pay your rent or how you're going to go to the supermarket with gas prices. So I live on Long Island, and for these workers who, you know, bus services are not the most reliable services on Long Island, and you have to get in your car, and with increased gas prices, how are you fueling your tank? Do you have to say, am I going to put gas in my tank because I got to go to work, and I won't maybe have this meal today because I have to juggle and balance. And that's just unfair to have those decisions made at your table when you're going to work to help the very most vulnerable population. So I want to say thank you for what you do. And I stand with my colleagues to make sure that we can give you what you deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to everyone who gave their testimony. Yes, I'm your assembly member, but I am a social worker first. So I thank everyone who goes into the field of helping humans just survive on a day-to-day. And I know what it's like to not be paid your worth. And so it's important for people like myself and other legislators who have a background in social services to come to become a legislature so that we can give our stories. You don't have to tell me what you're going through, because I know it firsthand. So trust and believe that I support anything that will increase wages for people who do the hardest work, the work that's absolutely necessary for our community. So I say thank you, and trust me, you have a fighter, you have an advocate in me always.
Thank you so much to my colleagues. We're going to also hear from Assemblyman Meeks, Assemblyman Burgos, and Assemblywoman Yuli New.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for this opportunity. For you all that's in the field doing this work, I've seen some of you out on the front line. Jarrell, appreciate all the work that you've been doing in Rochester and just tirelessly, even beyond the course of the workday. So I appreciate all your advocacy. And I just prepared a few words here. It has never been made more clear how critical the work of our human services workforce remains to the continued welfare of our communities. Tens of thousands of members of our community have been forced to struggle with the realities of poverty. Equal access to resources and opportunities for employment have been strained even further with the onset of the global pandemic. Our residents depend on public benefits to prevent food insecurity, homelessness, and to provide for their families. Our human services workers provide life-changing care for members of our community, but too often they receive minimal wages for compensation. Overwhelmingly, these positions are filled by women and people of color struggling to make ends meet. Ensuring equitable pay amongst our care workers is essential in ending long-standing disparities in both race and gender throughout our state. We have an opportunity this session to create meaningful change for countless New Yorkers. It is essential that our state provides real, livable wages for our most essential workers. That means establishing and funding an automatic annual cost of living adjustment of all human services contracts. It also entails setting a wage floor for no less than $21 per hour for all state-funded human service workers. We stand in support of equitable future for New York, and we believe that we must pay. So we're standing #JustPay. Thank you all for your continued work and your support on this effort.
Assemblyman Burgos.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to everyone who presented today and my colleagues, and I'll try not to be repetitive here, but I think the point is so very clear here. We're just at a moment where we've had this industry and this community of people live on the brink, live one paycheck from being homeless, one paycheck from being on public benefits if they have not already been. And now we're in this moment where, the geopolitical landscape has changed, and that has really affected, obviously, this community. And this is a community that services people in my district and live in my district. And not unique to my district, but obviously the whole state. But I have a keen interest because so many of my constituents are human service workers or receive benefits from someone who is a human service worker. So we're talking about a point where gas is doubled, tripled, quadrupled in some places. Groceries are $100, $200 more. Con Edison bills have doubled, tripled. I mean, this is an industry, this is a community of folks that, most New Yorkers can't withstand this kind of economic impact. And now we're asking the human service industry to do so. So right now, the timing couldn't be more important. We're 2 weeks out from a budget, and we have to ask ourselves, are we going to add this cost of living adjustment increase? Because cost of living is way up. And these people were already paid at a way lower rate, and we really have to make this adjustment to support them, to support all of our neighbors. So I stand with all of you wholeheartedly that we have to take this opportunity. We have to put that COLA in. We have to stand by our human services workers, because it's not just for them, it's for the families that they impact. It's for entire communities in our neighborhoods. And this money will come back tenfold to us. So thank you.
Assemblywoman New.
Thank you everyone for coming today. And also I wanted to say that, this has been a huge fight and a long fight, and I think that we desperately need to win, and we need to make sure that we get just pay. We can't afford to not have just pay, because I will say that, overwhelmingly, this is a population that of workers who are mostly female, a lot of parents, 2/3 are, people of color, and also, almost half of us are women of color. And so I think that it's a really important, issue that we have to take up, because it's also about making sure that we are valuing work that is done in our communities. I was a certified nursing assistant. I also worked for an organization called the Statewide Poverty Action Network when I was, a young advocate. And, this is really an important piece of how we are making things a lot more fair for people, because human service workers for the longest time have not been paid the way that they should have been, and are obviously, when working full time, should not be, in getting poverty, poverty pay, right? And our human service workers, many of them are using also the social benefits that our state has, and that should just not be, right? When they're trying to help others, they shouldn't have to be dependent on the state to survive. And I think that it's so important to make sure that we are funding just pay. It's the right thing to do, and it's also something that is long overdue. We need to make sure that our human service workers are getting the pay that they deserve. And on top of that, we have to make sure that a lot more people are attracted to the industry. This is something that our communities desperately are in need of, right? Our human service industry, services our communities in ways that, we can't even describe. I've talked to a lot of our different folks on the grounds, and people in my community need translation services, need the folks who can actually communicate with, the constituents that they serve. And the pay is abysmal, and it makes it so that it's really hard to stay. And so I think it's really important to make sure that if we're asking for folks to, help our families, that we are helping them to be able to help our families as well, and to be able to stay in the industries and that service our families. And so it's really important to make sure that we are paying folks at the right rate, but also making it so that people can survive. in all of this. And so I want to say thank you for all of the work that you do. I heard the amazing stories by Christelle and Delu and Jarrell, and I just think that it's really amazing that, you know, we have these stories that we can tell to our colleagues to make sure that we are paying people correctly. So thank you so much for all of your advocacy.
And before we go to, thank you, Nalini, you're always so articulate, by the way. So before we go to more legislators, I definitely want to give some of the workers space in order to let us know why this work is so important. And so I want to give the virtual mic to Brian of Brooklyn Community Services in Brooklyn.
Hello, everyone. It's construction going on right outside my office, so if you hear any noises, that's why. My journey with Brooklyn Community Services started in October 2018 as an activity specialist. An activity specialist is a entry-level position with the organization. And as an activity specialist, I created fun, engaging, and age-appropriate activities for the youth. By March 10th, I was starting my first day. By March 10th, 2020, I was starting my first day as Assistant Director of Oldawai Gardens. 2 weeks later, the city shut down due to COVID-19. Fortunately, I was able to keep my job and for a very short period of time, work from home. At this time, I was staying with my mom and my brother in a very small 2-bedroom apartment. I slept on a thin mattress on a floor because I couldn't afford a bed due to extremely low pay that I was receiving even as a newly promoted BCS worker. As the pandemic raged on and the realities of COVID-19 began to take a toll on me and my family, each week from March 21st to the end of April, I lost a loved one, totaling 9 loved ones due to COVID. Almost a year later, still trying to recover from many losses, I found myself homeless and struggling with the grief of the year and not having a place to stay. It was the most difficult time in my life. Brooklyn families and community members were facing homelessness and job insecurities, and just because I was facing those same struggles did not mean I could stop doing my job. Every day, my staff put our lives at risk to provide for our clients and community members. Many of our staff, my staff, face the same financial struggles as our clients due to low city funding. I felt defeated, not knowing that the resources BCS could provide to me were limited by the funding challenges within the job. Today, I'm a program director with an apartment that was temporarily given to me by a family member, luckily. Paying rent takes 95% of my check. I struggle with now receiving food benefits, transportation, and clothing. I ask myself every day, how can I be a program director in a youth facility and not be able to support my basic needs? Simply put, we need fair and just pay for the kind of work that we do so that we can keep serving our families who are struggling. Thank you.
Brian, thank you so much for your testimony. You know, no New Yorker should be living this way. And we thank you for continuing on. Thank you for sharing your testimony.
Of course.
So I'm going to also move on to Darnell Williams, and then Assemblywoman Farah Fusant, Fernandez, and Taylor.
Good morning, everyone. It's Jarrell Williams, I'm sorry. Demond, good morning, how you doing, my brother? My name is Jarrell Williams. I'm originally from the Bronx, New York, but I'm representing Rochester right now. I am a recovery coach at the Core Center in Rochester, New York, which is the Center for Community Alternatives. I've been doing the work here for about 6 months, but I've been working with you for about the past 8 years since I got out of the Army. The passion for this job came into the relation. You know, I was these kids. I used to have the same struggles, the same problems as these kids. So it just was something easy to jump into. Basically, over the last 2 years, especially during COVID, I lost my aunt, I lost my mother, I lost my job, but I was still poised with the task of taking care of a son, myself, and my little sister. It was tough. As a brother alluded to, you know, depression, things of that nature set in. Having to choose between living in my car or having an apartment was definitely a tough choice. And what I always thought about was the fact that we preach self-care all the time. And in order to be able to take care of others, for us to be able to give everything that we can to the people that we serve, we have to be able to provide for ourselves. And it's, I wouldn't say impossible, but it's sort of impossible, especially with the raise and everything and gas prices and food. You know, it's hard to survive. Nobody should be in this field. Nobody should go through college. Nobody should be serving individuals and you can't serve yourself. So higher wages to me would mean a peace of mind, you know, being able to provide for myself, being able to have that stability. It's tough to be stable for other human beings, and I'm not even stable in my everyday. And I find myself giving all I can to everyone else, and I can't provide for myself. And that's the task that I think we need to figure out. I'm not going to take up everybody's day. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. You know, we are here to support you. And you're asking for something fair, which is just pay. And this we're obligated this session now to get this done. So with that, I'm gonna give it to Assemblywoman Forrest, and then Assemblywoman Fernandez, and then Assemblyman Taylor, and you could just start.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm here because I stand in support of human service workers who make our cities run. Human service workers are doing incredibly vital work. They're providing care for seniors, educating youth, new immigrants, ensuring that families have resources. And yet their pay is shamefully low, which makes it impossible to retain workers and puts our communities at risk. Over the last year, I've talked to organizations and workers in my district. I've heard over and over again that the low salaries are a barrier to keeping skilled people in their jobs. And that makes no sense because these workers are skilled. We need to support them, not with pots and pans at 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. We need to support them with just pay so they can continue to do the work for us, our communities, and to make sure that they can keep their homes safe. That's why I support COLA increase for human service workers. And I know that my caucus members also feel the same way. And we will work hard to make sure that this happens in this year's budget. Thank you, Jarrell. Thank you, Christelle, Brian, for the work that you do. Thank you for everyone for the work that you do, because we're very, very proud of you. Have a great day and thank you.
Assemblywoman Fernandez, and then Assemblyman Taylor.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, for organizing this really important press conference today. And on the same, breath of all my colleagues, this is something we must do. The story from Jarrell, the story from Brian shouldn't be happening. It's really one of the embarrassing things that I have to see as a legislator with a role in this society to help you live well, and you are doing a job trying to let others live well. The one thing that we can do is just simply pay you what you deserve. And this hashtag is meaningful because yes, just pay. We need justice in what pay you're getting, but also a demand, just pay us, just pay you, our service workers. Like, it's really so sad that this has gone on for so long, and it should be the easiest calculation that if cost of living is going up, then we must let wages go up too. Because how are you supposed to pay for gas? How are you supposed to pay for rent? Sleeping on a thin mattress is no way that our service workers, our human service workers, are living. I stand with you and the rest of my caucus here to make sure that we accomplish this year. Because after this pandemic, as we're trying to get on that next step of the rest of our lives, the least we can do is just making it a little bit easier for you and giving you that real support system of decent pay, so you're not working 2-3 jobs, so you're not stressed about yourself, and that you can take care of self-care, because we literally rely on you to help others take care of their lives, and we need to make sure you can do the same. So thank you, Madam Chair, for this press conference. Let's do what we have to do, because I feel for my community here, those that service my community, and it's only the right thing to do to make sure that we get just pay.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair, for convening this press conference. But really, I want to thank the participants that have come here to share their stories through everything, going public, sleeping on a mattress. Was that Brian and Jarrell and Christel? Thank you. It's unconscionable that you'd have to stand here and ask for something. We talk about our community, and we talk about this great state. You are the fabric of what makes this such a great state, because you're providing the services that are happening in our communities daily. And you do it not because you're driven by the dollar, but because that's your compassion. But we should be able to compensate you for that work. So I stand in agreement with my colleagues. I stand with you with this COLA increase, that just pay is just fair. And when we look back and we unpeel this thing, we say, well, when we looked at COVID, we already knew we were in despair in communities of color, no secret. But it highlighted what we were dealing with. Now to look the other way and say, well, that happened then, and we're not willing to put something at the table, we're only going to repeat what we've seen happen before, because the people that could afford the least did the most and were the frontline workers in this time of devastation. So we must honor you, as my sister said, not with pots and pans, but with dollars, and making sure that you have equal pay and quality living, and being able to provide that income, which is still not enough in today's culture. So I am so proud to stand with you today, and I look forward to putting my shoulder to the wheel, my shoulder to the wheel, to help change the narrative. And I would even go so far as to say this: if you cannot support this, I question, I didn't say it was, but I question your commitment to the people that move this state. Thank you.
Thank you so much. With that, we don't have any more colleagues. I just want to emphasize that the caucus stands behind this initiative, and we look forward to pushing it into the final budget. But we need everyone's help. Please keep raising this issue with your legislators. Keep discussing this on social media, and keep the energy on, because we need your support to get this to the final threshold, to the final budget. So with that, I thank you, everyone, and I appreciate you, and I look forward to getting this done. Just pay. We need to get done this session.
Just pay.
Just pay. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.